Hello, this is Scottish Independence Podcast number 95. The first thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the people who've left really nice messages of support and everything, and people have been asking if the podcast will continue. I can tell you it definitely will, until such times as we're able to call it the Independent Scotland Podcast and not the Scottish Independence Podcast. Let's hope it's sooner rather than later, and then we'll see if there's any need to keep going. But basically, if you're anything like me, this all still hurts quite a lot. Especially when you think that since the no vote, Cameron's to cut public funds to Scotland, Tories want to sell the NHS, austerity's going to continue whoever wins the next election for Westminster, Ed Balls wants to freeze child benefit, the media has just woken up to the fact that there were new oil finds and suddenly North Sea oil's worth a fortune again and is a marvellous thing instead of a horrible burden. Oh, and they're about to start another war. And that's not even mentioning that these new powers aren't arriving either. It's just UK OK all the way, isn't it? Fantastic stuff. Now, I said in the title that this is Angry Salmond, and it's not the guy from Twitter. This was a speech that Alex Salmond made just after his resignation. It wasn't on television or anything, so you won't have heard it before, and it was recorded, I think, on the camera of a guy called Sean Gibson, so thanks to him for doing that. I think it's quite special, and in it he actually does get a bit angry. He promises that when he's finished his official duties as First Minister, he's going to be able to say exactly what he thinks about BP and the BBC and others, and I'm quite looking forward to that. I don't know about yourself. So here's the speech. The sound quality wasn't great, so I've worked on it a little bit, and it should be all audible now. I think it's well worth the listen. So here it is, and I'll have a wee word with you at the end.
When you think in terms of the sweeper thing, as opposed to thinking just in the aftermath of a disappointment. When you think about the sweeper things, then the achievement on Thursday was extraordinary. And it was achieved against the full might of the London establishment. I said during the campaign, they flung the kitchen sink, half the living room, most of the bedroom. Every bit of furniture available was to be flung at the Scots. I mean, David Cameron, when his back was to the wall, when he realised Scotland was slipping away out of his power, he called the ultimate weapon. Was it Trident missiles? No, it was Asda.
I think this is shock. I think this is shock.
When Asda was called in, and BP and the rest of the gang who were corralled into Downing Street and said, send a shiver up the spine of the Scots. I'll tell you what, they find it difficult to find a spine in Downing Street, never mind sending a shiver. We should take comfort from the fact that they couldn't beat us politically, so they have to resort to the strong-arm tactics. And when you think about the demographics that I was talking about outside, the majority of people under 55 voted yes, and the majority of people, particularly those over 70, voted no. And you think about that, you see, it is quite easy to scare old people. It's not a difficult thing. It's a cheap, nasty thing to do. But it's pretty easy. And where the people of that age group get their information? From the press. The BBC. I'll tell you something, there are some fine BBC reporters instead. Brian Taylor, for example. David Dibble is a class act, absolute class act. The boy Black, who revealed the memo on air about it. These are fine people. But I'll tell you this about the BBC, there's a huge difference between being a public sector broadcaster and a state broadcaster, which is what the BBC is. The younger generation, who voted by majority yes, not just incidentally because they were always voting yes. These are people, by and large, who've moved towards yes over these last few months. They get their information by and large from local radio, who are outstanding during this campaign in terms of giving a balanced opportunity to both sides. From the social media, which was dominated by the Yes campaign. I was asked at a meeting in Kilmarnock, a lad asked and said, how can we possibly withstand this daily barrage from the Daily Express and the Daily Mail and the Daily Depress and the Daily Snail? How can we today, how many people here are on social media? How many people are online? Well, there's your answer. The truth is out there. We just have to go and find it. And as the people of a younger age than myself, slightly younger age, were able to find that information, then they voted accordingly. So the days where you can rely on the BBC, whose damage has been, whose reputation has been irreparably damaged in my view, but you can rely on the newspapers to tell us what to do. These days are coming to an end, and the writing is on the wall for that sort of campaign. So we should take heart, enormous heart, from what actually happened in this ballot, from the 1.6 million people who put their trust in a better future for Scotland. And now we see how quickly politics turns. This is, well, I brought this along, incidentally, because fair's fair. There was one single newspaper in Scotland came out for yes. One single newspaper, the Sunday Herald newspaper, came out for yes. And I hope and believe that most, if not all people in this room and your friends are rewarding that paper and buying it and giving it to someone. Because there's no bad quote from me in the front page. The real guardians of progress are not the politicians at Westminster or even at Holyrood, but the energised activism of tens of thousands of people who I predict will refuse meekly to go back into the political shadows. I don't know where that came from on Friday, but I managed to say it. I think Moira probably wrote it for me. Anyway, that's exactly what I think. I think something has changed, and Scotland has changed utterly with it. Now, as I mentioned outside, 10,000 people have joined the SNP since Thursday. I know that a substantial number have joined the Greens as well. And if folk in here haven't joined the SNP or the Greens or Business for Scotland or Women for Independence or Radical Independence Group or whatever is your favour, then do it now. Keep active. Become involved. Do it now. The second thing is caught in Cameron's trap. There's Alistair. Looks like Alistair. And there's Gordon with ropes around him. Yeah. I just want to make it clear, these are not ropes that were tied by anybody in the Yes campaign. There's no egg over either Alistair or Gordon. The only eggs that are there are egg on their face, because this pair acted as Tory frontmen throughout the campaign. Sliding out of Downing Street, all smiles and relief on Friday morning. He immediately says, of course, we recognise the promises made to Scotland, but this must go in tandem. And just in case we didn't understand what in tandem meant, he said, at the same time,
We could get something to eat.
changes that take place in England. Which means, of course, that they want to have English votes for English affairs. But listen, I've got no problem with that. I was once asked by Jeremy Paxman, the great BBC interviewer, who once incidentally compared me to Robert Mugabe. Another example of the impartiality.
He's from the TV. He's from the TV.
Never mind that, I have to say, Paxman has a great virtue that he patronises everybody. Regardless of everything else, so that's okay. So I once had to go at patronising him, and he was asking me about people's feelings about independence. I said, look, Jeremy, I said down the line from Glasgow, I fully accept there are many people who doubt the nation's ability to govern itself. There are many people who have their misgivings, have their doubts. But I say the people of England are well capable of running their own country. decide their own affairs. They are a great nation. They are absolutely fantastic nation. They've got culture, hinterland, and heritage, which is second to none. I think they've got some absolutely awful political leaders, but nonetheless, no doubt the good people of England will sort that out in good time, in due course. But the Labour Party have a huge problem with letting the people of England decide their own business, because they think they will lose their majority in England. And therefore the log jam at Westminster developed within hours of the vote being announced in Scotland. I wasn't surprised. And my only surprise is I thought they would leave it a weekend before they started reneging. I'm only surprised by the blatancy of it. I'm only surprised by the brass neck of it. I'm not actually surprised, but as I was saying outside, the people who will be surprised are those 25% of the folk that voted no, according to the post-referendum analysis. The 25% who voted no because they thought that change was coming. Safe change. Reasonable change, uncontroversial change, significant change, powerful change, and now are starting to look around and saying, were we tricked, were we fooled, were we gulled? Yes. Oh, yes. Doesn't come from us. We actually saw through this. Some of us were old enough, and I'm looking around, Johnny, you and I are old enough. Margaret's too young to remember. Gordon was in Canada at the time, and some of us remember way back to Sir Alec Douglas-Hugh. A man of, incidentally, much greater integrity than the person in Downing Street at the present moment. Former Prime Minister. My mum voted for Alec Douglas-Hugh. She did. My late mother voted for Alec Douglas-Hugh on the principle that Alec Douglas-Hugh was clearly well off, and therefore wouldn't have to have his fingers in the till. I would like to just emphasise that my mum in later life voted in the same direction as her husband and her son. But at that time she was quite impressed by Alec Douglas-Hugh. She wasn't nearly as impressed by Ted Heath. She wasn't impressed at all by Margaret Thatcher. And I don't know what you would think of it. But she quite liked Alec Douglas-Hugh, and therefore when Alec Douglas-Hugh said, listen, back in 1979, days before the referendum, he said, vote no, and we Conservatives will bring forward a more powerful and better Parliament. Some folk believe them. And so, therefore, in a few days before poll last week, when the vow was made in the Daily Record newspaper, some folk believed that as well. And the 25% of the no voters believed. But as they are disappointed, not just by the reneging and the timetable, back to business as usual at Westminster, but also just an examination of the content, the total insipid, weak, nothingness of the proposals that they don't even agree on. Actually, conceptually, when you think about it, it's almost impossible. These three Westminster parties have failed to agree on nothing. When you think a blank sheet of paper would be ideal to reach a consensus on. So, when people realise not just about the logjam, but also that the Labour proposals, for example, would involve us getting control of 20% of Scotland's revenue. 20%, 1/5. Marvellous. What about the other 4/5? The Labour proposals wouldn't, of course, countenance any suggestion that oil, which I can't understand this, get this through my head. The Westminster Party say this oil is a big fuss. It's all going away very soon. Why are they so anxious to hang on to it? We want to say, you take it, it's not worth anything really, you take it. No. Back in 1974, ladies and gentlemen, the Labour Party and the Liberals were saying 50% for Scotland. Now it's 0%. I've got a suggestion. Why don't we just reverse the whole thing? We collect all the taxes. And as long as our fellow citizens want to stay under Westminster, we'll send them some money.